Good morning, fellow Ambazonians. Welcome to the No Kunny Talk podcast, an interview. Today we are going to talk to Mr. Larry Eyong, a columnist, author of the book Africa Tear Down Your Borders. He is a freelance reporter with Mega Text Express in the United States of America, the former chairman of SCNC United States, the former Cameroon calling anchor, and also the former spokesperson of SCACUF.
Hey, Capo.
Good afternoon, Mr. Larry. Welcome to the
Yes,
No
sir.
Kunny Talk show. This is an interview.
Yes.
So today I really want to interview on some very important subject, in particularly the issue concerning the divide in our territory. And but before this, I just want you to give a comment. We are coming in the backdrop of the 11th February National Day of Mourning, and we
Yes.
have heard of the incident in Batibo in Tembeng. It is the same place 2 years ago where 13 people were murdered by the Cameroon military. And we have heard that in the morning of 11th February, the Cameroon military came there to arrest one individual that we heard they were suspecting of providing gunpowder and petroleum to Ambazonian forces. The person ran away from the house with the wife, leaving behind a child of 4 months old. The child was burnt alive by the Cameroon military. So I just wanted to give a comment on this before we go ahead.
Yes. I have seen the gruesome pictures of the burning of this child. This is what constitutes genocide. Western countries do not want to evoke the word genocide because they do not have the political will to follow up with what the law requires them to do. The beer dictatorship, the beer kleptocracy is a group of war criminals. And as Martin Luther King said, the arc of the world turns slowly, but it turns towards justice. I believe and I hope that Southern Cameroonians will be able to secure justice. Justice will be done for the egregious atrocities that are being committed on our people. And as a United States citizen, I'm ashamed because the United States government is incapable of taking action for fear of the French, because they need the collaboration of the French in their international strategic wars. I just want Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians to know that the decision to continue this genocidal war is not being in Yaoundé. It's being taken in Paris. So the onus is on Emmanuel Macron, who is continuing a bloody strategy that was started with de Gaulle through Chirac and Mitterrand. These people do not believe that Africans have a right to democracy and freedom and self-determination. The children and the people who are being killed in the southern Cameroons are writing the history of the people of the southern Cameroons in their blood, and will never forget that sacrifice. Will never forget the deaths that they are visiting on us. It is shameful, but that is the reality of the Western international system of today. It is a system of malign neglect. African lives don't matter to them. Black lives are now mattering in the United States because after killing a lot of African Americans have risen up. We Africans, we Ambazonians have to rise up and continue making our voices heard, that our lives matter. And the lives of these young men who are being killed, the lives of these children who are being burned will not go in vain. They will write the name of Ambazonia as a nation in their blood. And nobody will cancel this because it is based on international law. It's based on the right to self-determination.
Looking back in-house, Given the systemic nature of the killings, this is not the first one we have seen. We have seen Bebe Mata, we have seen grandparents, senior citizens being burnt alive in their house, and the situation being that of a recolonized, whatever the status of the territory is. What do you have to say about people who in this condition, like Nijon Fundi, Kawala, the Abobalas, and many of the so-called elite from our territory who reside in Yaoundé, and their response to these killings have been very, very silent? What do you have to say to people who reside in Yaoundé, in particularly those who are holding high positions in that Cameroon government?
I understand the psychological position in which they are. They are living in fear. They are an oppressed people. I told you about the strategy of the dictatorship of Yaoundé inherited from the French. It is a policy of isolement et étouffement. They isolate you and they asphyxiate you. Agbobala, Kawala, Fundi cannot speak. If they speak, they will die. I sympathize with them, and I do not count on them to liberate us. I count on you and I and every southern Cameroonian young man who has run away from that dungeon, who is out in the world to do justice on our people who are remaining there and have no choice because that is their land. They are the people holding the land. They are the people claiming the land for us, and they are the people paying for that land with their blood. Kawala, Frundi, Agbobala are irrelevant now when it comes to this struggle. They have no choice. They live in the dungeon of the slave master. They have no choice. They cannot speak because even you saw the recent tape of the other traitor called, what's his name again? I can't even remember his name.
Nambere.
Nambere, he was saying very clearly that these people don't respect us. These people are mocking us. The only thing that we must do is to regroup and unite and inflict a proper defeat on their army. So long as they continue dividing us, we will be weak. We have the capability of defeating their army in a battle, and they will stop. Because the young men who are coming and dying for that dictatorship of Cameroon, they know they are dying for a corrupt dictatorship. 21 members of that government are in Kondengi. Jeve Mendoza, who was supposed to be the Chanticleer, the man singing all the praises of Paul Biya, is in jail. So that is a sign. Paul Biya has no respect for those who have served him and they are dying. He doesn't care about them. So we have to organize. You cannot count on Kawala. We cannot count on Agbobala. We cannot count on Frundi. They have taken money. They have signed a pact of silence to remain alive. And sometimes I can't even blame them because they are in the dungeon. They are inside the slave master's camp. But the responsibility is ours. As Frantz Fanon said, every generation must rise and take responsibility to defend and protect its legacy or to betray it. Will we enshrine and empower our people, we who live in the diaspora? Will we enshrine and empower them, or will we betray them? That is the responsibility that is on us. And I can tell you, the courage that our young men on the ground have shown inspires us to continue this battle and to strengthen ourselves and to unite and to defeat them, because we will eventually defeat them. All the atrocities that they are causing can be only comparable with the atrocities that the Nazis caused against the Jews. That is only to solidify us that never again will we pretend that we can have a union with these people. We have a superior culture. We come from the Anglo-Saxon culture. The English language is the predominant language in science and technology in the world. Even with the coronavirus, the main companies that are producing vaccines are Anglo-Saxon companies, we come from a superior culture, will never bow to Francophones. Now, they know that. That is why they are trying to suppress us. But Paul Biya has said it very clearly. Nous avons tenté de les assimiler, mais ça n'a pas marché. Paul Biya has admitted that it has failed. They taught French by radio in Boya in the 1960s. French by radio did not work. We cannot become part of an inferior French culture, a dying French culture. They tried to impose the French language in our courts and in our schools. It did not work. You see the shameful translations that they make. I am surprised and I'm ashamed of people like Dion Gute and Atanganji who pretend that they are prime minister. The word prime minister means that you are the head of a government. Dion Gute knows that he's not the head of any government. It is a sinecure. It's just a name. It's just an empty signification, and he knows that. He knows that he has no power because the Francophone ministers tell him openly that they don't have respect and they don't fear him. Achidi Achu was in that position. Enoni was in that position. Mosonge was in that position. All of them were crying because Paul Biya sent people to spy on them every day. They have no respect. We are going to bring back respect for our people. It is we who are in the diaspora who are going to do that job with our boys who are on the ground.
Given the nature in which we live in, seeing all the denigration of human life, the taking away of human dignity, and the fact that the Cameroon government have outlawed, banned, and criminalized our identity as a people of the southern Cameroon, the church, which we think would be of a higher moral authority, higher moral ground, who could speak where the political leadership or the political class that had been have failed to stand up for the people because of the fear of death. The church have sent the convoy of the Vatican, and who was making a speech in La République calling for reconciliation, and they have had this crusade that have been engineered in synergy with the Cameroon Prime Minister's office, calling for ambassadors of peace, talking about reconciliation. Given the nature in which they treat our people, burning of children, do you think there is any chance of such reconciliation or such mediation for reconciliation happening?
No, there is none. It will not happen. Remember the history of the church. The Catholic Church has always colluded with the oppressor. The Catholic Church colluded with Hitler. The Catholic Church accommodated Hitler. The Catholic Church accommodated Mussolini. We must remember history of the Catholic Church. Do not count on the Catholic Church. Count on the sovereign people of Ambazonia. Count on the young men who have given their lives in the southern Cameroons. They have made the supreme sacrifice, that of life itself. They have paid with their blood for a country. When I was in Cameroon in the 90s, we were talking about the force of argument and not the argument of force. Remember, this movement was started by lawyers, was started by intellectuals who thought that the pen is stronger than the sword. But because of the brutality of the regime, it is now being revealed that it is the sword which is stronger than the pen. As Bismarck has said, if the great problems of the day cannot be solved by parliamentary speeches and debates, let them be solved by blood and iron. It is blood and iron that will solve the problem of the independence of the southern Cameroons. We are seeing it every day. The people of French Cameroon know the young men that they are recruiting in the Wondo villages and the Beti villages, they are coming to our territory to fight a tribal war. We must bloody their noses. We must finance that war and support our children to bloody their noses. It is only when they will fight and realize that they cannot continue to occupy our territory, that's when they will sue for peace. We must be firm. We must not blink, as Joe Ayaba says. We must not blink. So do not count on the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, they are appeasers. They come to appease and to perpetuate the status quo that benefits them. The cardinal, the Pope has been sending envoys who have been collecting golden gifts from the Biya dictatorship. That is what they do. They collect gifts from third world countries. You need to read La République des Mallettes dans la principauté française du non-droit, the Republic of Briefcases. That is how the French Republic has survived, from briefcases of corruption, from dictatorships, from the Bongos, from the Ufot-Bonyis, from the Biyas, from the Yademas of Cameroon. So that is how they have survived. They have survived by oppressing us. But now our eyes are open. We know that they are oppressors, and we shall fight them to the last drop of our blood, and we shall win. I want you to know that at the end of the day, we shall win.
Wow. Now, let's go to Amber, which is the primary issue of this interview today. We have seen that the Cameroon government have always sponsored, encourages, and facilitate some unscrupulous people for the sake of the public. Let me just say Northwest and Southwest, because we know that nowadays, during this phase of our liberation, we have various factions. The IG factions will rather use
Capo, that is the simple principle, the time-honored principle of divide and rule. Divide and rule. Divide and continue to pay. There is no problem between Northwesterners and Southwesterners. Since 1955, since we left Nigeria, there has never been in a bar from Bamenda to Limbe to Kumba to Mundemba where Northwesterners have engaged in a fight with Southwesterners. This is manufactured by unscrupulous administrators from Yaoundé who take advantage of ambitious Southwest politicians who know that the only way to win an election is to claim that you are the Southwest and you are fighting against a Northwesterner. Let me tell you, Northwesterners are our brothers. They have shown their brotherhood. Since Zingraft went and took them from their villages and came to help build the CDC. If today there is a CDC in Limbe, it is because of the work of the people of the Northwest. It is the work of the people of the grassfield areas. This tribalism, this separation is very shameful, and only politicians who are not meritorious can try to claim. Let me tell you about my own personal history. I became the chairman of the SCNC in the United States of America from an election that was conducted, and only Northwesterners voted for me. That can tell you that Northwesterners, when they see merit in a Southwesterner, they will vote for you. So let's stop this whole nonsense of division. It is this division. Even we in the Southern Cameroons movement, we have accepted that division and thinking that, for the Southwesterners, for us to have Ambazonia, we have to make a Southwesterner a leader. No, that is a false choice. That is falling into the trap of the CPDM, who are trying to prop us against our Northwest brothers. We don't have a problem with the Northwest. We have a problem with the dictatorship of Yaoundé. And that is what the Anglophone, the Southwest elite must understand. That those who live in Yaoundé or Boya, who have to eat from the government, from the little trough of the dictatorship, who have to eat from the crumbs of the regime, have to succumb to that division for them to survive. The Northwest has no problem with the Southwest. The Southwest has no problem with the Northwest. We have a problem with an oppressive colonial dictatorship that is eviscerating the lives of our people, stealing our resources, and reducing us into a captive people. And we have to come together and fight them. And immediately we come together, we'll be able to fight them and we'll be able to defeat them, because they cannot defeat us, because that's our land. The boundaries that were instituted after the Simon Milner Agreement are there. They are clear. Southern Cameroon is an English-speaking part of the country that is not related to French. The British fought for that section of the country, and the United Nations gave us the option of gaining independence. Forget about the unconscionable action of the British colonialists who decided to predicate our independence on joining Nigeria or joining a French Cameroon. There was no requirement for independence by joining. Today, we have gone to school, we found out that the principle of unconscionability, there is substantive and procedural unconscionability. That means that we have now come and realized that the terms under which we were forced to make this Faustian choice, this false choice, these terms were fraudulent, and we have a right to reject those terms. And since we started fighting for these southern Cameroons, 43 other countries have gained their independence. So we have a right to have independence. We are 4 times larger than Israel. We are more resource rich. We have 10 million southern Cameroonians who are spread all over the world. Nothing can stop us from gaining our independence, and we shall gain that independence.
Do you think during this period of subjugation under La République, our culture have significantly been degraded and we are not the same people when you look at the prospect of us having a democratic society? You see the main issue of leadership in terms of the governing council. The governing council have just had an election, but previously during the time of Skakuf, there have always been a consensus that we must choose somebody from the Atlantic state that affirms the superiority of the Bakwere or something that is related to around Bakwere people. Otherwise, we have no choice. Do you think that fundamentally we have changed and the people only want somebody from the Atlantic state and somebody who is effective? If you look at the institution of the governing council, and someone like Dr. Chua Yaba will never be accepted as a leader because he's not from the Atlantic state.
No, Chua Yaba is accepted as a leader. Southern Cameroonians are going to judge your leadership by the content of your character, merit, as you do. Sako is a failed traitor. He pretended that he could gather $2 million and do something to save the country. He has proven that he's a fraud. He has proven that he can do nothing. And no Southern Cameroonian, not even a Bakweri person who has brains, can support Sako. Sako doesn't know where he's going. We want somebody who can liberate our territory, who is courageous and who is of character, and we will continue supporting Choayaba. We will conduct elections anytime, and then we shall get leadership. Leadership is a relay race. You run your own lap, and you hand over to the next generation, and you continue supporting it. So we must distinguish ourselves from having a dictatorship of a one-man rule, as Biya has had for 35 years, and a Southern Cameroon's system of parliamentary democracy where leadership can change, but policies can continue. That is the onus on us. We must prove that we can have that kind of change in government and continue standing by our principles. But it is not a matter of Northwest or Southwest, because I, Larry Eyong, I was elected as chairman of the SCNC in North America by Northwesterners. So Northwesterners have an ability, they know how to recognize merit. And when you do a job well, we want a job done properly. We don't care where we come from, you come from, we are looking at the work you do. Capo Daniel, I am talking to you because of the work that you do. I'm not talking to you, I don't even know where you come from. But I'm talking to you because of the work that you do. And that is exactly what we have to inculcate on our people. The younger generation of Southern Cameroonians cannot perpetuate the moribund and retrogressive political culture of our ancestors, of our fathers, who said, oh, you cannot vote for a Northwesterner, you must vote for a Southwesterner. No. We have graduated from that tribalism. We have graduated from that nepotism. We have graduated from that obscurantist view of the world. We are now citizens of the world. We look at merit and we look at your performance and we judge you from there, and we can elect you from there and we remove you when the time comes.
Despite the fact that Seseko Ayoktabi, who is the head of the IG group, is in jail, do you think a vast majority of Southern Cameroonians are still clinging on this idea of a government and the name the IG sound like a government. Seseko is the president. Do you think the fact that we have been warned not to create a government and this ideology injected in the revolution will be a handicap and make it impossible for a leader like Dr. Chu to have the necessary popular support in a significant manner that is going to shift the demography so that our people can reason properly that we do not have a government, even though we are still fighting for liberation? For some people, believe me or not, Mr. Larry, they do think that Ambazonia have a government, Ambazonia have a president. Sometimes they even think we have two presidents, Seseko and Sako. And do you think there is a possibility that our people can wake up one day to the reality that we are still fighting to liberate our country?
Okay, I believe that a wise man changes as he grows wiser. Only fools don't change. The leaders who are in jail have made the supreme sacrifice. They have paid with their lives. They have been condemned to life in jail. And for anybody to try to impeach them and claim that because they are in jail they are traitors, that person is a traitor. And that's why I reject the Sako administration. Whatever impression I might have had about the Ayoktabe government, I commend them now because Ayoktabe, Fongalanfo, Dr. Wasum, and all the other Chinde, and all the other colleagues of ours, 10 of them, people that I know, I attended the third conclave with them. They are paying for their convictions with their freedom. They are being deprived of their freedom. They can't see their children. This is Valentine's Day coming. They can't see their wives. Because of that, just because of that sacrifice, I cannot vilify them. I cannot accept that they should be vilified. I consider them leaders. I consider them an inspiration to the movement. I consider them as leaders who are continuing to fight for our struggle. I consider them as leaders who are inspiring the younger generation to continue to fight for this cause because it's a just cause. But while they are there, we should have an alternative government out here which can perform the duties of continuing our advocacy and continuing the war. And I want people who can perform. And for me, it is Cho Ayaba who is doing the job. Sako is a fraud. You cannot collect all this money and squander it and believe that anybody should respect you. Look, let me give you an example. In the southern Cameroons, if you earn money or you have had money where you could not prove that you earned it and you bought any property or a car, the West Cameroon government will put stamp there, West Cameroon off the road. They put that stamp on Lebaga on his car when he bought an aeroplane car when he could not afford it. So we want accountability. We want transparency. We want full disclosure. And Sako has failed. As far as I'm concerned, Sako is not a leader. Sako is collaborating with the dictatorship of Cameroon. Chris Anu is collaborating with the dictatorship of Cameroon to perpetuate our slavery to keep themselves in power. I want new leadership. I want people. And now with the coronavirus period, we can organize a new leadership and have a proper election where we shall have a leader. And if we do that, any group does that, I recognize their leader, so long as he's fighting for the Southern Cameroons. That's why I recognize Joe Eba. I have no problem with him. But I cannot recognize Sako because Sako is a fraud. He has squandered the resources of the Southern Cameroons. He has gone and taken money from the government. The members of his government have confessed that they were bought over by the dictatorship of Cameroon. Some of them have left. So we know that. So we cannot follow them. But remember, every Southern Cameroonian leader who sells out is selling only his vote. You cannot sell the vote of the 8 million Southern Cameroonians. So the other Southern Cameroonians are going to continue the forward march into our freedom. That is what is happening now.
For a last question, do you think we, the people of the Southern Cameroon sovereign territory, we still remember who we are? We used to be a people of a parliamentary system where the Prime Minister is answerable to the Parliament. Today, after being in a forced relationship with La République, a lot of people they want to see the name president. We are seeing all the groups the factions, the leaders of all the factions are carrying the title of a president. And do you think our people will ever recognize ourselves as we used to be, born of Anglo-Saxon system where we have a parliamentary system? And lastly, do you think we will be in a society where a Bamenda boy like me, who have nothing to do with Mezam and was born in Boya and from a family who come from Boyo, can see myself like a citizen or a resident in Bamenda and go for election in Bamenda in a free Ambazonia?
Let me answer by giving you an anecdote in the United States of America. John McCain, a fighter pilot who fought for the United States and was shot down in North Carolina, in North Korea, and stayed in the Hanoi Hilton for 5 years. When he came back from the United States, from his imprisonment in North Korea, he went and settled in Arizona. And somebody in Arizona said, "You don't belong here. Where are you from?" He said, the place where I've ever lived for long is in the Hanoi Hilton. Let me remind you that John McCain was born in the Panama Canal. His parents were in the military fighting for the United States. But John McCain was able to come and live in Arizona, run for office in Arizona, become a senator, and you know the indelible legacy that John McCain has left in the Republican Party and in the history of the United States. That is an example for all of us to learn that societies which grow, societies which progress, don't go back to the regressive policies of tribalism. La République du Cameroon is failing because of tribalism. Capo Daniel, I am looking forward to a day when a young man from Manfred like me, who was born in the Boya Mountain, Mount Mary maternity, can run for mayor of Boya. That is going to be the litmus test of our republic. And that is going to happen because it is not where you were born. It is what you are capable of doing for the people. And what you are capable of doing for the people is not predicated by where you come from. So I am very hopeful that a child from Northwest, from Kikaikilaki, from Sabongari, who was born in Boya, whose parents came there and worked in the rubber plantations, in the tea plantations, can rise up to be a leader depending upon his merit. And that is what the future of the Southern Cameroon will be. That child will be born, and that will happen. So I am very hopeful.
In terms of the political outlook of the state of our territory, you think we would ever be the prime ministry system of government? We ever have that type of government?
That will be our choice. If we want to be a government, remember, Canada has a prime minister, Pakistan has a prime minister, Australia has a prime minister, New Zealand has a prime minister. Most former British territories have prime ministers, and that does not diminish their ability to be recognized in the concert of nations as heads of government. Canada has a prime minister. He negotiates on the same terms with the president of the United States or the president of Mexico. So this is something that we must go deep and realize, that the British parliamentary form of government is the best form of government to democratize our system, to bring the government closer to the people, what we call the devolution of powers, where we do not create an imperial presidency where a president has a right to dissolve parliament, to dictate whatever he wants on the people. That is how you destroy a democratic system, when you transform it from a British parliamentary form of government into a presidency. That is what Milton Apollo Obote did in Uganda in the 1960s, transformed it into a presidential system and became a dictator, and that is how Idi Amin overthrew him and how Uganda went down to the abyss. So we must go back to the original conception of the British parliamentary form of government, which devolves power on the people. The Parliament, the House of Commons, is where all the people who represent the minorities come in and debate policy and decide on the future of a nation. That is why I still have respect for Britain, and I want a British parliamentary form of government. And so long as we do not go down to adopt the system that was bequeathed to us by the British, we are going to be going astray, because a presidentialist system is a recipe for dictatorship.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eyong.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you. God bless you.
God bless you, sir. That was Mr. Larry Eyong, columnist, senior journalist, former president of the SCNC United States, and former anchor of Cameroon Calling. This is the No Conny Talk podcast. God bless you. Bye-bye.